Hi, this is Michael Adams for Stock Telegraph and CEORoaster. And just recently, I published some postings on Twitter, Facebook, and the like, because I wanted to get your questions for Palladium One Mining. It's trading as PDM on the TSX Venture. Also, it's trading in Frankfurt, and I will have the trading parameters somewhere around this video. And the reason that I wanted to touch base with Derrick Weyrauch is that there have been some developments with the company, and I just wanted to get some details. And you guys, thank you very much. You supplied some of the questions, and let's just dig into it. Yeah, one of the questions was brought to me by Kukuk 1982, and it was, what's the impact of the lockdown? How long do you assume it's going to last? Is there a difference between Finland and the other projects in Ontario? So, Derrick, thanks for taking the time, and up to you.
Oh, good to talk to you, Michael. So the impact of COVID-19, we certainly have been impacted by it. It caused us to shut down exploration activities in Finland in the middle of March. We were drilling, however, we were able to get a lot of the work done that we had previously planned. And maybe what I can show you here on the screen is a little bit of what our planning was for this year and how it impacted us. So when we got into 2020, our intention was to de-risk an exploration drilling program by doing a fair amount of geophysics in advance of drilling. And the plan was to do about 75 line kilometers of induced polarization IP on 5 different survey grids, as you can see on the chart here on the bottom right-hand side. The 5 survey grids are outlined in blue. As well, we were looking at doing about 385 line kilometers of drone-based high-resolution magnetics. Fortunately, before the shutdown of COVID, we were able to get all of that work done, as well as drilling just under 2,000 meters of diamond drilling of a 5,000-meter drilling program. So we got a lot of work done, but did shut down. We have been able to release some of the results into the market. 3 of the 5 survey grids have been released. The samples for drilling are still with the labs. They obviously slowed down quite a bit as a result of this, and it took us a little bit of time to get the samples prepped and sent to the lab. We're hoping to get the assay results back in the next couple of weeks, and hopefully we can get it into the market by the end of May. So although it's not ideal, we got a bunch of work done and hope to get back into exploration and drilling later on this summer. But right now we don't have a firm date. We are just playing it by ear. Listening to and talking to the local authorities, and obviously there's going to be some flight restrictions currently, so we're waiting for that to clear up.
Okay, great. And
with regards to the
sorry, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. I was just trying to sneak a question in from Chris. He was asking about the monthly maintenance costs for the Finland projects during the lockdown. Is there any number you can share?
Well, nothing has really changed in terms of the maintenance costs. The way this system works in Finland, there are annual, let's call it claims fee or maintenance fees that have to be paid. They're based on how many hectares of land you have. We currently have a cost of roughly $225,000 Canadian per year. And so far, the government has not given any consideration to a reduced rate as a result of COVID. And people should know that those fees actually get paid directly to the underlying landowners and aren't actually a tax that goes to the state.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No, so then move on. Yeah.
Yeah. So, for those of you that are familiar with the story, we've put together a few slides here to just give you our perspective of the results we have. Here we are zooming in on the top part of the property up in the Kukua area where we have the Kukua resource. We've got about 30,000 meters of drilling. roughly a 1.2 million ounce palladium equivalent resource in the solid yellow oval. We did know when we put that resource together last September that there were a number of holes, about 5 or 6, just south of the resource where the arrow indicates there, and that area did not make it into the resource, and we called it the Kukua South area. And because those holes had some good mineralization, as you can see there, we've got 1 gram of PGEs plus copper and nickel. It became a very interesting area for us. And we do know that going to the east inside of that dashed line along the contact, there's been very little exploration activity. So part of our decision for the current year was to make that a key area to do geophysics in order to understand where there may be higher concentrations of chargeability anomalies, where we could point the drill bit to. So we did a geophysics grid over that area. It's roughly a little over 4 kilometers in size. And as well, on the top of the map up at Murto-Lampi, we also did a geophysics grid there where the dashed outline is. And largely in part, that was due to the historic drilling activity that was done back in the 1990s by Outokumpu and GTK that we show on the top left, where they did very shallow holes, about 40 meters in depth. They were mineralized. It was a fence of about 200 meters long. And when we were there last summer, you'll recall us talking about a chip sample that we got at surface after walking around for a couple hours. We got over 3 grams of PGEs and 0.8% copper. So very good values. And we conducted a survey there. So what you see on the left-hand side in the box called Murto-Lampi plan map is the results that we announced a few weeks ago for the IP survey grid. And you can see that we've got a fairly large anomaly there. It's up to perhaps 350, 400 meters in width. It runs about 750 meters in length. And we also see in that map the drill holes and the intercepts from GTK back in the 1990s. And you can see that they didn't actually hit the anomaly. They were in the area, but they didn't hit it. So, given there's good mineralization there, we're very excited. We were able to this year drill 1 hole in that area. We set up close to the former holes and drilled underneath the anomaly. But we're really excited to get back into that area and follow up just a whole a bunch of good news that really is an underexplored area. If this was sitting in North America, it would have been drilled out quite a long time ago. But the big news that really drove our stock price a couple of weeks ago back up to about 12 cents per share was the southern zone below Kukua there. And there we released the following results from the IP. And as you can see on the left-hand side, the IP work done in 2008 was a fairly small survey. We have on the top left the outline of the Kukua pit. It's approximately in 1 kilometer of strike length. And as I said earlier, it contains that 1.2 million ounces. Whereas this anomaly on the southern part now is over 4 kilometers in size. We have the historical drilling on the far western side of it that shows very good grade, as I said, over 1 gram per ton PGEs. So, we've got an exciting opportunity, and the big question in our mind is how many more Kukuas do we have in this 4 kilometer strike length that we know has mineralization on the left-hand side. So really pleased about that, and very much demonstrates the fact that this is very much a drilling exercise in order to build the tonnage and the resources.
Okay.
The other survey, the third survey that we put out into the market last week, was down on the southern part in the Hakiaho area. On the top map here, it's an aerial view. You can see that we identified 3 main corridors, which we call the western drill target, the central drill target, and then the eastern. The historical resource that was done back in 2013 was on that western area, but it was very widely spaced and needed a lot of infill drilling to take it into a proper pit constrained resource. And our objective this year was to drill that out and perhaps drill 2,000 to 2,500 meters in order to get sufficient drill density to turn that into a resource. And our hope was to add about 1 million ounces to our resource base. Unfortunately, due to COVID, we were unable to do so. But these results from the IP are extremely encouraging. You can see here there's a very large anomaly there. So it looks to be a little bit deeper. They might have even missed it at depth. So that's exciting, as well as the anomalies to the east. So we're very much looking forward to getting back at Hakiaho. But I think given the terrain at Murtalampi and Kukua South is fairly elevated, we'll probably be focusing there before coming back to Hakiaho, which we would hope to do in the winter.
Okay.
And the other bit of update this year is a little program we did on our Tycho project in Ontario. The way the land tenure system works in Canada, you have to do a minimum amount of work to maintain your properties in good standing. And given the LK in Finland and PGEs are our primary focus, we didn't really want to spend a lot of money at Tycho. So we did a small program of soil sampling across a historical airborne EM target, and that target had been confirmed back in 2016 with a VLF survey that outlined a 300 meter long anomaly. So the sampling that we did in that area in the fall and announced in January showed a background elevation for mineralization greater than 22 times what you would expect to see. And it's really a classical signature for a massive sulfide deposition. So it changed the orientation in our thinking here, because massive sulfides with the tenor that we're seeing historically at Tycho is quite high, could be very valuable rock, and it's very well outlined. So our next steps as far as Tycho is concerned is to just do a small ground-based EM survey, a little bit broader, in order to really define exactly where that plate might be, and do a small program of drilling, perhaps 2,000 meters, in order to target and see exactly what we have there. But it's a very interesting opportunity. I think we're being a little bit opportunistic right now, because we are in the process of doing a small fundraising, a flow-through fundraising to do that activity. And the reason we're doing it is because exploration in Ontario is deemed to be an essential service. Oh, I just got to turn on my plug in my battery. Not a good thing, but exploration is deemed an essential service. So we have the ability to go in, and it is something that we could probably drill this summer.
Yeah, let me cut into this because I have a question. Please. I have a couple of questions regarding the financing. So let me just cut into this. One of the questions is from Investor Legend 333, and it's regarding the flow-through placement. Is your focus now shifting to the projects in Ontario? Is this focus solely based on the impact of 19 and the lockdown, especially on the projects in Finland? Because the Ontario projects are primary nickel, not palladium. Are you shifting your focus to nickel? What activities are you planning in detail on the Ontario projects? And yeah, that's kind of his thoughts. So can you comment on that?
Yeah, there's a few questions in there, and I think I touched on a couple of them. We're only looking at the Smoke Lake anomaly, and we're looking at doing a very small program. opportunistically because we have the ability to get into the field and add some value. Our focus remains Finland and LK in particular, and in the palladium space. This is something where, quite frankly, there's some low-hanging fruit here, and we believe that with spending a little bit amount of money, we should be able to add quite a bit of value to this project and position it for next phase. But our focus does remain Finland and PGs.
Okay. Is there, and that's a question from me, is there any thoughts about polishing up the Tycho project and maybe spinning it out, or didn't you put some thoughts into this yet?
Well, that's part of what we're doing here with the polishing up, is positioning ourselves to be able to do that spin out. Okay. We have the ability to dividend out Tycho. It is sitting in a separate legal entity to our shareholders so that they can or so that we can realize, value for what we have in the Tycho project, which right now is being obscured based on our focus on LK.
Exactly. That's what I thought. You don't get any value in the market right now for Tycho, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Maybe I just add, because I have some other questions regarding the financing, and because we just talked about that. So there's one general question from Sturm in Hamburg, funny name, which means like a storm in Hamburg. What is a charity placement? Because part of what you do at the flow through is a tranche for charity placement. So can you just give us an idea what a charity placement is and what the differences to a regular placement, to a regular flow through placement are? And his question is, why should anyone pay 13 cents, which is the price for the charity placement?
Sure. Okay. Well, I'll explain it in two steps. First, for those that aren't familiar with what a flow-through financing is, a flow-through financing is a tax-driven scheme in Canada designed for Canadian investors. And an investor subscribing to the shares will get a tax deduction, income tax deduction, for the full amount of their investment. It grinds their cost basis down to zero for tax purposes, but if you're in the highest tax bracket and let's say it's 53%, your after-tax cost might be 47%. And that's why when flow-through financings take place, they're at a premium to market because of this tax advantage. But obviously, it is not a good form of financing for international investors, such as people in Europe. Because, why would they want to pay a premium? And I think it can leave a bad taste in a lot of international investors' mouths if companies constantly do this type of financing. So it can be counterproductive. Now, in our case, what I want to do is raise only enough money for what we want to accomplish and minimize dilution and minimize the overhang on the stock. So there's an enhanced tax scheme, if you will, called a charity flow scheme. And in that situation, what happens is an investor or a donor, if you will subscribe to the shares, in this case at 13 cents. And because that individual wants to make a charitable contribution to a hospital, for example, they will subscribe for the shares, immediately turn around and donate them to the hospital. And the hospital will immediately sell them to what I term a back-end buyer. And the reason this works is because that donor is able to give value to the hospital. The donor not only gets the tax deduction for the full amount of the investment, they also get a charitable tax receipt, which reduces their cost base that much more and allows them to donate even more to charity, because instead of costing them 13 cents on an after-tax basis, their contribution might only be 4 cents, 4 or 5 cents, somewhere around there. The charity loves it because they actually get a donation, and they can then sell the underlying shares or units, and they sell them at a discount to market. And as a result of that, sale, anybody can acquire those shares. And it's an ideal construct for an international investor to be able to partake in a situation where the company is raising money well above market, minimizing dilution, minimizing overhang, but allowing the investor to buy the back end of that financing at a slight discount to market in order to participate in the scheme and advance the company.
Okay, but let me ask
under both. Yeah.
So let me ask you, the back-end investor, because the shares are restricted, so they are not like trading on the stock exchange. So how does like the back-end investor put shares? Is that like a private agreement with the hospital in your case, or how does he get his shares?
Well, it's no different than a non-brokered private placement. The shares are the exact same shares as any other shares that the company has outstanding, and they will be on a 4-month hold. So they can't trade for 4 months, but they're no different. And the back end buyer would get the same certificate or registration that they would on any other shares. The only difference is that they don't get the tax deduction, but they don't care because they don't need it in any event.
Okay, so the advantage for the company is that you just can raise money at a higher price and limit dilution, right?
Correct.
Okay, good. And the rest is probably not as interesting for the German audience because, as you said, they can't really participate in this flow through. Although, on
the charity, the back end, they can participate because they're assisting the company getting a higher price or more money in, and they get themselves a discount to market.
Yeah, I get it. And the other good thing about flow through, it might have some other implications, but the good thing about flow through is you have to put that money into the ground, right? It's not for general business purposes. So it's for sure to advance the company, the fundamentals, right?
Well, it absolutely has to meet certain criteria for exploration. The money has to be spent in Canada. So, for example, I mentioned earlier, there's a minimum amount of spending that has to happen for a Canadian project. And, we use the term having flow-through money. If you have flow-through money and you can do that minimum spend with flow-through, that's the preferred mechanism versus what we term hard dollars. So the money that we raised, for example, to advance Alkea in Finland is hard dollars. It's not flow-through eligible. And therefore, it doesn't make a lot of sense to use those dollars, invest in exploration in Ontario when I can minimize dilution by raising flow-through monies for Ontario.
No, that totally makes sense. And so there's another question coming in from Harold M., also talking about the financing. How's the market response to your recently announced $1.15 million flow-through placement? When can we expect closing? And is there any participation of institutions?
Yeah, there's institutional participation both on the conventional flow as well as the charity flow, and we would hope to be closing it next week.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're if we can get it done on the 18th, that would be great.
Okay, cool. Quick other question coming in, or that came in from Alexander, regarding the participation of Eric Sprott in the financing last year. So is Sprott still on board? Is he still a big supporter of the company?
Yeah, he's very much still a supporter. As a matter of fact, I was just checking yesterday the regulatory reporting that he needs to follow to see if he's changed his position at all, and there's been no change. So he continues to be holding everything he bought.
Okay, good. So I think there's one other question left, which was supplied to me. And it's a more general question. So maybe we end up with this. Do you have anything that you want to go through on your side, or should I just finish up with the last question from Matty?
Well, no, I think we hit the key points that I wanted to hit, which was an exploration update, the impact of COVID, and as I said earlier, with regards to that, we don't know exactly when we're going to get back into the field. We're hoping, in the next couple of months. But, from a strategic perspective, and I think it's important for investors to understand how we think strategically. We do have a strong cash position now that allows us the ability to get back into to Finland and complete the program, and hopefully we can get that done. We have a backlog of news flow, but as you see, we are releasing updates to the market as we get the data processed, and it's not going to be too many more weeks until we have also released to the market the drilling results. So, one of the things I was very conscious of is that we're going to run out of catalysts to support the stock at a point in time over the next little while, and without understanding when we could get back to exploration and support and drive the stock through news flow, thought it was important to take advantage of the essential service situation in Ontario and the fact that we have this drill-ready target at Smoke Lake, so we can have additional catalysts to support the stock right through the end of the summer.
Yeah, no, I think it's a total good way that you guys. Yeah. I can figure out you put some thoughts into it, right? Because right now you're limited in Finland, but you still have the projects in Ontario. You are wise enough not to waste in paragraphs the hard dollars, which are supposed to go into the Finland project, not to waste them in paragraphs on the Ontario project. Raise a little bit more money, with a low dilution, based on the flow through and charity flow through placement. So that all makes sense to me. And I'm happy to, whenever we really start moving again, we just hook up again, that you can give me an update. And I would like to finish off with the question from Matti. And he's commenting that Palladium's main use is in car catalysts. What if, due to the changes in the overall demand for cars due to the coronavirus and maybe the impacts later on, like limited mobility and everything, will lead to a way of less car sales in the future? Is there any other significant application for Palladium outside the car manufacturing industry? Derrick?
Well, that is an excellent question that we could probably spend an hour on. The reality is that we saw with COVID in early March that the new car sales in China dried up quite a bit. I think they were down about 92% in February, and it's only recently that the assembly plants have reopened up, and both in China and the announcements in North America and in Europe. Prior to COVID, it was very clear that there was no solution to the supply deficit that's been running for about 8 years, and that additional resources in good jurisdictions were needed. And last year, I believe the number was about 9.7 million ounces was consumed in the automotive catalyst, whereas the global mine supply was only about 6.9 million ounces, so 40% premium. And the expected deficit in 2020 and 2021, et cetera, was expected to continue, as a matter of fact, accelerate as a result of ongoing more stringent environmental standards coming to bear. So, for example, in China, the China 6A standard only comes into effect in July of this year, which is going to cause even more loading of vehicles. So, fundamentals for the market are extremely constructive. The reality is, I think at this juncture, we don't know exactly what the impact is going to be on new vehicle sales and the impact on the deficit. Certainly, we also saw a lot of supply curtailment. So the South African mines shut down 100% for a period of time. I believe they're currently back up to about 50% capacity. And you've got over 40% of palladium supply globally coming from South Africa. So it's a really big hit to already a fairly small market. We've seen impacts in Ontario, for example. Lac des Îles, one of the very rare palladium dominant mines, was shut down for a period of time due to COVID. So there is an interplay between demand changing and supply changing, and we'll have to see how this plays out. And, part of the question was, are there other uses for palladium? Certainly there are. Palladium is part of that precious metal suite, so it has been used as an investment vehicle for some time. There are dental applications, chemical, industrial applications, but realistically at this point in time, it is consumed for the auto catalyst. There is research that it is being conducted that palladium is going to play an absolutely critical role in the hydrogen economy as we move to fuel cells, because just like it has unique properties to clean emissions in the auto catalyst, those unique properties can also be exploited in hydrogen energy and a zero emission environment. So, I would anticipate that there's going to be an impact. I don't know what it's going to be, but there's a long-term future just because it's a very unique metal that has a number of different properties that make it special and important for reducing environmental damage.
Okay, cool. So
Yeah.
I would like to say thank you very much for taking the time to give us an update on the company developments, the situation right now, and also especially answering the questions of my subscribers and viewers. So thank you very much, Derrick. Also, let me suggest that whenever we are moving forward, like this crisis has been kind of solved, I would say, and everything is like moving forward, like operational wise. You can restart on the projects in Finland, or you might have some results from the projects in Ontario. Just let me know. I will be happy to host another interview session with you. And in the meantime, thank you very much, and good luck, and stay healthy.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate your interest, and let's stay in touch. I look forward to getting back into the field and driving some drill bits.
Great. Thanks, Derrick. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.